Jenna Elfman, you've had a lot of great co-stars in your career, and none as unique as Imaginary Mary.
I beg to differ.
Well, maybe Dharma. I mean, Greg from Dharma and Greg.
Yeah, there you go.
So tell us a little bit about the show. It just premiered a couple weeks ago, so there's probably some people still discovering it. Tell us a little bit about the premise of the show and who you play.
Yeah, so my character is an accomplished career woman. She's a PR for athletes, and she had a bit of a rough beginning with her childhood, with her parents fighting and divorcing, and also then just never being there for her. So out of necessity, she created this little, she was drawing and it came to life, this little imaginary friend that was like a buddy system. She was the only one that was there for her and got her through her childhood. And then we cut to present day. The imaginary friend has gone away. And my character is very wary of love, relationships. Definitely kids is just like scary, scary business. And despite all that, she falls in love with this guy, but he's a divorced dude with 3 kids, which is like kryptonite and Mount Everest at the same time. And in the stress of realizing I'm going to have to meet his kids, the imaginary friend comes back to help guide me through this completely unknown territory.
Right. Well, it's an interesting premise that you being forced to grow up causes your imaginary childhood friend to come back and try to keep you back in childhood. What attracted you to this part?
Yeah. So, I mean, as crazy as it sounds, I had actually told my agents, I'm not going to do another network comedy. Don't even bring me one. I'm sure, you've witnessed what's going on with networks today, and it's a little crazy, and it's a really, I just have just been, my past few experiences have been rather unsettling in terms of like network television and that whole experience. And I was just kind of done. And they said, so then they, despite me saying, no, stay away, they brought me this, and I read it. And I thought it was for the voice. So I was like, oh, this sounds like a really fun role. I'd love to do the voice of this character. That'd be a fun gig. And they were like, no, 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 the lead, the girl, Alice. I was like, oh, okay. And, I read it, and then I loved the script. Number one, I get to play a lot of things. I get to have the dynamic of working with the CGI character, and not just working with one, but like doing physical comedy. And I'm the only one who sees this character. So to manage the scenes where I'm playing with the other actors who don't know I have an imaginary friend, manage the comedy with an empty, when we film, it's an empty space, and do all of that and play the love interest. Like, there was just so much I get to do. I went, okay, number one, that's fun. Like, okay, that's interesting. This hasn't been done on network television, primetime TV before. And then I was looking at everyone involved, from Sean Levy, who's one of our executive producers. He was directing the pilot. He directed our 2nd episode, obviously All the Night at the Museums, Date Night, Stranger Things. And I've known Sean, like, we all used to like do TV commercial auditions together. I think I even may have done a Dr. Pepper commercial with Sean. I think I may have a photo. I keep meaning to. And then Adam Goldberg from the Goldbergs, and Adam Sandler's company, Happy Madison, producing. I was just like, okay. And then I went, well, what network is this? ABC. And I went, wow, they're doing well with their comedies. I haven't been back on ABC since Dharma and Greg. Wait a second. I've been on the other networks. I haven't been on ABC. And they're doing great with their comedies. And I just honestly couldn't find a reason to say no. My very long answer for what drew me into this.
You mentioned working with the CGI character. Talk about some of the challenges of that. Take us onto the set and give us some insight into how you are able to interact with, I guess, a golf ball or a tennis ball, or what? Tell us a bit.
Yeah. So, well, the one thing for rehearsal, so when we're rehearsing, we have a life-size puppet and a puppeteer and a comedic actress on set to read Mary's lines off camera, because I really need that, comedic rhythm to act opposite of. So we would figure out all the blocking with the puppet and the animator. I mean, the puppet and the puppeteer, and our visual effects supervisor also. And then they would take the puppet. Well, we would film one take with the puppet so that the animators had a point of reference for what her size in that space. And then it goes away. And then when we film, I don't have a green golf ball. I don't have a little eyes on a stick. I have nothing. It's empty space. And sometimes I had to remember like 11 different eye lines, both lateral eye lines, dimensional eye lines, and my own marks and my lines, and do the scenes with the human actors, all while remembering Mary's eye line. It was a lot, but that was one of the things that interested me. Is I went, wow, at this point in my career, like, this is really new. This is a lot to manage. I felt I was up for the task, and I knew it was going to be a challenge that would just kind of keep me on my toes. But yeah, it was a lot. That was a lot.
Well, yeah, I was going to ask, is it a challenge to get I guess a genuine performance out of yourself when you don't have anything to act off of? How do you do that?
I have to have, you have to just surrender, like being in the room you're in with crew, and you have to just really lean in to the belief, to make believe. And you just have to lean into it and go with it. What was extra challenging for me was I didn't want this character to seem like she's having a mental breakdown. I wanted the audience to like lean in, like Ted. You just sort of go with it. You have this funny animated character, and but I'm the only one who sees her, and so it was a fine line that had a learning curve for me of, is she there and it's my whole mental navigation through the situation illustrated through this imaginary character? And how much am I going to actually interact and acknowledge her versus she's kind of just there with me? And that was performance-wise, and not knowing how they were going to animate her exactly or what that was going to look like. I was kind of in a vacuum for those first several episodes while we were figuring it out. So my learning curve is like on camera. And all the post-production people, their learning curve is off camera. So it was a little daunting for sure. And then, when we finished filming, we went for a tour of the post-production animation studio, and to walk in and see 30 animators all working on Mary, I was like, oh my God, you guys are my co-star. You are my co-star. And I actually wish I had done that in the beginning, because to really talk about, okay, guys, when I'm doing this in a scene, or how, your approach of putting physical reactions for her, or to trigger reactions out of me that start with her, it's an interesting task, because all the animation's done afterwards. So I almost want to have like an animator on set when we do the Mary scene, so that we can actually talk about what could be, and really like deepen that dynamic. That interests me to expand on the performance of that.
Right. So to talk a little bit about, now we can get away from your relationship with the imaginary friend, Alice's journey with her new boyfriend and his children.
Yeah, so I don't think she ever planned on having a meaningful relationship at all. So she's in foreign territory for sure, but he's very good for her. He's patient with her quirks. He's tolerant with her overwhelm. And I think he himself really wants a woman in his life for his kids. So I think he's open to tolerating all of the mishaps, because he's just so happy to have someone else around who he adores. And, Alice is willing. She's a willing, reticent, terrified, freaked out, but willing. And I think as the season goes on, we see her stumble through these experiences with the kids and with him. She doesn't have a point of reference for how to navigate a relationship. She doesn't know how to communicate her way through, but she's a publicist, so she knows how to communicate, and how to work people a little bit. And I think she uses that a little bit as her entrance point, and then realizes that it's okay to stumble. It's okay to grow through the mishaps. And she's finding she's like kind of filling out as a woman. She's becoming more of a well-rounded woman as a result. And she sees that she's benefited by that. And so I think that helps her keep being willing to stumble because she knows she's going to grow.
Right. And then what were some of the highlights from this season for you?
Well, I really loved the scenes when I'm with the kids. I just feel like there's so much comedy there. And I love the casting of these kids. They are not perfect, pretty little children. They're like little charming weirdos. And, you know, the actors themselves are eccentric and quirky and lovely and sweet. And it's that mixture of eccentric and sweet that I think is so becoming. And I don't know. I just feel like I've never seen kids like this on TV before, ever. And I loved acting with them as actors, and I love the collision of our characters coming together. And there's the mistrust, the trust, and building those relationships. Those are my favorite scenes. But I also love the chemistry with, you know, Steven Schneider. Him playing Ben. We have so much fun doing that too. But it's really, honestly, I loved working on the show. I hope we get to do many more seasons because it's a lot. There's great people, and but the kids, that's the thing. Super quirky and really fun.
Absolutely. Like you said, you've done a lot of network television comedies spanning, I guess, about 20 years now. My God. I remember watching Dharma and Greg when I was growing up. So,
cool.
I guess you can comment a bit about how network television comedy has changed over the years, especially in the kinds of opportunities that afford you as an actress.
Yeah, so it's been interesting. You know, I think as new media evolved and the internet came into our culture, that was really right around that time, like just towards the end of it. And that really exposed people to so much more content, both entertainment, and news, you know, and it really, in the past 15 years, especially I think the past like 8 years, the tone of the culture is shifting. People are so much more aware of what's going on in other countries, both with entertainment, culture, politics, and it changes the persona of the culture. And so then what they're interested in, what kind of stories they want to receive, and what they're seeking, depending on what they're finding via social media, is changing what they're craving in their entertainment and the tone of the entertainment. And they're not naive anymore, you know, the way there's not that naivete. So storytelling becomes different in a culture where the naivete is changing. And, you know, there's the war between cynicism and joy, you know, and I feel that's a challenge. I like to bring joy to what I do. It's, you know, I think it's important to maintain joy. It feels weird that I have to apologize to saying it's, we should be maintaining joy. It's like, I'm sorry, cynical world, but I really think we have to maintain some joy. So I just think that there was a learning curve in terms of the type of comedy that landed with certain audiences that didn't have the internet, and the type of comedy that lands with the internet and social media. So it always pendulum swings one way. And then people are like, oh, we can be really naughty and raunchy and, ooh, this is new. And then people are like, yeah, all right, enough. And then it starts to swing towards, let's be really smart and witty with our comedy, you know? And then it's like then you have all the derivatives of wit and trying to be really intellectual and smart. And then people want to have some silliness and physical comedy. So it's constantly going like this, you know? And I think it's at any given time, finding the right combination of creatives to land in the culture in that moment with that material. It's while staying true to what you want to be communicating in the world. It's always like a funny, perfect storm or not, you know?
Right. For your work on Dharma and Greg, you received a Golden Globe Award for Best Actress, and you also received 3 Emmy nominations. I wonder what that kind of recognition meant for you.
You know, I think I do what I do because I like making people laugh, and I like making them feel better about their day, you know. To then have your peers go, hey, good job, it's really nice. You know, I don't think that you should obviously depend on that for your self orientation. But it's always great when someone comes up and, you know, it's like in any occupation to have your coworkers give you a little fist pound in the hallway and say, that was great, good job. It feels nice. With the Golden Globe Award, it's fun. You know, it's the Hollywood Foreign Press Association's a really quirky, awesome, funny, wonderful group of people. And then the Emmy nominations, those are your peers, and it's such a communal art, and it's great. It's a lovely acknowledgement, you know, and I think you have to first know for yourself, like give yourself a pat on the back. You know, you have to always be able to do that first and foremost. It's like, be your own biggest fan, not in a weird way, but just, you know, you're the one that's going to get yourself through the day and get yourself through your career. So, but when people acknowledge you, it's like, feels good.
Right. And actually, one of the years that you were nominated at the Emmys, I believe, was the year that you hosted with David Hyde Pierce. Is that right?
I think so. I can't remember which year was me hosting and which year was nomination. I didn't really.
Well, I think it was. I just looked it up, and I think it was 1999 when you hosted, and I believe you were nominated. Yeah,
I think you're right. Yeah.
What was that experience like? Speaking of performing in front of a live audience, I mean, performing live in front of an audience of millions.
Yeah, you know, I'm very comfortable performing in front of an audience of millions because that's what I love to do. It's all those people. It's the working people of the world that are trying to make their way. I want to make them giggle. That's all. I just want to keep them going. And it's harder performing in front of an auditorium of your peers. That's super intimidating because I respect them, and you just are like, you cannot. I just couldn't think about what are they thinking right now. Do they think this joke's funny? Like, oh God, that'd be way too stressful. So I kind of just had to pretend that they weren't my peers. And that's the intimidating part, is the performing in front of your peers. And they were actually very sweet, and people laughed, and yeah, it was daunting.
Well, Jenna, thank you so much, and congratulations again on Imaginary Mary, and thank you for taking the time to chat. It was lovely.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. Have a good day.
You too.